our God.
Okay.
A data center houses rows of computers and equipment for storing, processing, and transmitting data.
The data center market is experiencing unprecedented growth. There are more than 150 of them in Metro Atlanta, and more are coming online.
Contract agreement could double the revenue the utility system hands over to the city.
That's a game changer.
The technology that helps power our modern world, but it takes a lot of resources to get it done.
Water is a finite resource. They are hugely resource intensive.
Constant protests over energy and water use.
Right now, Georgia exempts data center equipment from state sales tax.
Concern is dealing with the impact on our residents as it relates to the utilities. Does that cost get passed on to our residents?
My main concern is the environment.
Hey guys, good afternoon. Glad to see you. This is Shawn Harris. Tonight, I'm excited to be here with two of my fellow candidates, and I want to welcome you to a series that we're calling Rules of Engagement to the Data Centers. And we want to have a conversation with you tonight, so I encourage you to start putting your questions in. I encourage you to like what we're doing and then share it with your friends, because we want to get the word out as much as possible across the board. Tonight is about having a conversation about letting you get to know us as the candidates in 3 different districts up here in North Georgia. And then on top of that, all 3 of us want to learn from you about your concerns about data centers, so that when we all win in November and go to Washington, D.C., we can actually put policies together that would turn into law, that will put guardrails on what's actually going on currently in this, what I call the wild, wild west of data centers throughout all of Georgia and throughout all the entire United States. So with that, I just want to say again, welcome. I'm excited to see that in less than 2 minutes, we already got more than 100 people watching us. So please, again, tell your friends, share it with everybody, like it, get it out there. And on top of all of those things, I'll be remiss if I didn't say it. The 3 candidates that you see here actually see you, we care about you, and we want to support you. But in order for us to win, we actually need some people to donate some money to our campaign so that we can actually beat these individuals that we're running against, because all 3 of the Republican candidates we're running against, they don't care about you, and they definitely want data centers to be in your backyard and everywhere else. So with that, help me out, help us out, and let us go work together to win. So, but tonight we're talking about data centers. Before we jump into it, I want to tell you a little bit about my district and how it impacts us here at data centers. I'm going to look down, so I apologize because there's a lot of data here. One of the things I want to tell you about Georgia right off the top. Georgia is number 2 in the nation when it comes to having data centers, and is right after Virginia. Think about that. Georgia's number 2. In addition to that, is actually number 4 nationwide, but the reason why it's number 4 is because it has a 141 planned data centers that are actually being planned to go into effect here in Georgia. And many of those data centers are still in the process of being built or planned out or still being debated, but there's 141 of them. What you actually see happening here in Georgia right now is, if you're in Atlanta, you know it's already a lot of data centers there, from Google to whatever, whoever. However, they're running out of space. And now a shift is actually went into place, and that shift is moving out to the rural community. And that's why you have all 3 of us talking to you tonight, because all 3 of us actually, we all want to represent rural Northwest Georgia or North Georgia. And with that being said, the reason why they're moving out is a couple reasons. One is because we actually have the land out here. We actually have the resources out here, and we have the ability for them to get to the grid in a faster way. So with all of those things being said right now, is this: a shift is happening where it's moving out of Atlanta and is moving into every county throughout the great state of Georgia, but specifically up here in Northwest Georgia or North Georgia. I apologize for saying Northwest Georgia because that's my part of Georgia, and I say it a million times every day. But again, tonight is just, we're just talking about North Georgia. Now, let me tell you a couple of things specifically about my district, Georgia 14. Georgia 14, we currently have 7 data centers in our district. That's in the pipeline. In addition to that, those data centers right now in Floyd County, Whitfield County, and Paulding County. Just last night, I was in Paulding County at a data center event. Hopefully, some of those people are online tonight. I went there to listen, keyword to listen, and get a better understanding of what's going on. So I look forward that if some of those people online today, to look forward to addressing some of their questions. And then in closing, I think most of y'all guys know I live right here in Polk County, right here in Rockmart, Georgia. And just so happen here in Rockmart, Georgia, we don't actually have any data centers because Polk County made the decision to go with a data center process that it says, unless you, Chapter 33, if you don't want to pay for everything for yourself and put systems in place, then guess what? You're not going to build one here in Polk County. So a good shout out to Polk County. But I got a funny feeling somebody's going to say, you know what, we'll pay for everything. We still want to put a data center here in Polk County. But with that being said, I want to stop there because tonight is not about me. It's about letting you know who we are and getting to your questions. So with that, let me actually pass it on to my colleague, Chris. You have the floor.
Hey, thanks, Shawn. Thanks for having me. And Mara, thanks for allowing me to join with you guys. I just wanted to take a moment to tell you a little bit about me, since some of you might be meeting me for the first time. I actually grew up in a trailer park in Shawn's district up there in Rossville, Georgia. And now I'm an attorney, and my wife and I, we have put down our roots here in Woodstock. We have a law firm, and we also have 5-year-old triplets. Let me say that again. I don't think people heard that. Triplets that are 5 years old. So when you want to talk about affordability and grocery prices, we are living that. But yeah, we're down here in Woodstock. We're running for CD11, which that includes Gordon County, Pickens County, Bartow County, parts of Cobb, which is mainly Marietta and Kennesaw, and Cherokee County, which is Woodstock and Canton. Ours is all of our counties handle it a little different, these data centers. Looks like we have 4 that are planned, 3 that are in Bartow, and 1 in Marietta. And I will get to those counties here in just a second. But it looks like Pickens and or Gordon and Cherokee and Pickens, they don't have any plan, and they don't really have any regulations yet. But it looks like they're open to the idea of data centers. Gordon does not have any planned, but they are currently under a 6-month moratorium where they're going to draft some new regulations before those come in. And if you're in Gordon County, Calhoun, looks like July 13th, if you want to go to Gordon County Administration Building, they're going to be holding a public hearing on some of those regulations. As far as Cobb County just had a city council meeting where they rezoned commercial zoning and turned it into light industry so that they can be more accommodating to data centers. The city is saying that there's none planned yet, but it looks like that there was a company, M Acquisitions, on behalf of Grindcap, who asked for the rezoning. And Grindcap currently has 5 data centers projects planned throughout Atlanta. Now, this is where my district takes a little turn, which is when you get to Bartow. Bartow seems to be, if y'all don't want them, we'll take them. So they are excited about having data centers. So it's all over the place here in CD11. But I think the gist of it is everybody wants to make sure that if they're coming, that they're safe and that we're not going to have to pay for them. And I guess with that, I will kick it over there to Mara Keller.
Well, thank you very, very much. So I'm Mara Keller. I'm running for Congress in Georgia's 3rd Congressional District. And I am a retired Army. I did 26 years and then became a nuclear medicine technologist and, worked at the VA. And that was the decision that catapulted me to run for Congress. I've lived here in Georgia for 30 years, the longest I've ever lived anywhere. So I consider myself a Georgian with just a little bit of a northern accent. Now, in my district, I've got 15 counties, and a lot of it is rural. I go. Sean's area was so kind to give me one of your counties. So I have Harrelson, all the ways down to a little bit of Muskogee. And then, we go all the ways to the right, which would be Upson, Pike, Meriwether, Spalding, Coweta, and Fayette. So out of my district, I think I win with the data center. And we have right now that is either in the works, planned, projected, is 31. And, when I ran in 24, this was not an issue. This was not when you're talking to people of the district, not one person said or talked about the data centers. But in January of 25, that is when it became an issue. And Coweta was the one about Project Sale. Project Sale, we're talking about 832 acres. And which is going to be like 2 times the size of Mall of Georgia. And where I live in Fayette, we have the QTS, and that pretty much was one of the big starts of it. Now they're on about 615 acres. But when we talk data center, we're not just talking about one building. And if anybody has seen the QTS building here, we're talking about 15 of those, which are huge. So the rural areas, like they were saying, is like the farmland is cheap. It already has access to power lines, water supply. And, from my standpoint and in talking to the people, we've been going to so many zoning meetings, commission meetings, city council meetings, and we're trying to have them listen to us. And it's interesting how we can walk away feeling defeated, but we hopefully in tonight's discussion, we'll be able to let people know what we can do from a federal level, but also what people can do in their communities. So if we have to have a data center, we're going to have a good steward that is brought into our community. So I'm going to then now turn this back to you, Shawn.
All right. It's good to be back. Hey, one of the first things I want to say is to say thank you to everybody that's chiming in. I also want to give a big shout out to Adam. Adam, I see you there. You over there on X. Appreciate all your help. Thank you for getting this thing out there to everybody. And then on top of that, before I start talking about myself again and get prepared to start asking some questions, I just want to let everybody know that we only been on now for 13 minutes and we already got 1,000 people actually watching us as we get started. So thank you for that. Please keep liking it, keep sharing it, because that in itself brings more people to this particular thing. And then on top of that, if you see there is a QR code at the top, put your phone up to it. Please give money to our campaigns. And when I say give money to our campaigns, whatever we raise tonight, we're going to split evenly across the board, because I believe that when I win and when Mara wins and when Chris wins and everybody else wins throughout this great state of Georgia, we need people in DC that's going to work together. We also need people that's going to be working with us down at the state level. And then we also going to need people that's working at the city and county level, so that when we actually putting these things together as far as guardrails, somebody will actually listen to us and put the action into place. Because tonight's conversation is about what can we do at federal level. And right now, when we look at the federal level, and we'll play with this. Mara or Chris, anybody who actually has some additional ideas on it, just jump in. But at the federal level, right now, we only got one bill that's actually bipartisan, and that's up in the Senate, and that's called the GRID Act. At the end of the day, I'm not going to go way in the weeds. I just want to introduce it to let you know that please put that in the chat for me, team, somewhere for people can see it, the GRID Act, because I want you to take time today, call your representative, call your senator, call everybody and say, hey, you need to get in behind this because this one's bipartisan, and it's the only piece of legislation that's even roughly talking about data centers, whatnot. So I just want to put that out very early in this conversation so that when you get off tonight, and we will only hold you for 1 hour tonight. If you know anything about me after doing 40 years in the military, I know how to start on time, and I also know how to end on time. So I assure you tonight, we started at 6, and at 7 o'clock, we will go off and we'll let you go back to your families, let you relax. But at the end of the day, we look forward to your questions. Do any one of my other colleagues want to talk a little bit more about the bipartisan bill in any kind of way?
Oh, the ones that I want to talk about are the ones that are in the House that do not have bipartisan buy-in. And we've got, I don't know if they can put it in also in the chat, which they can also contact their congressman. But some of them deal with the energy, some of them deal with the water, some of them deal, which to me, one of the most important ones is when we talk about the non-disclosure, the NDAA. When you show up at some of these commission or zoning meetings, once they sign an NDA, they can't tell you who it is, how big it's going to be, how much power, how much water they're going to use, what kind of water system. And so the community, you're automatically in the blind. And so you've got some smart people out there, and what they'll try to do is say, okay, they got this size of a plot, so we're going to assume this is the type of data center they could put there. And, you know, they all try to figure what it would be, but we've got one of these things is you got to be able to tell the people, if you're going to come into my community, we need to know who you are, what this is all about, so the people understand and they're not left in the dark.
Excellent, 100%. And hey, how you doing all the way over there in Augusta, Georgia? We see you. And that is another one of our colleagues that is an outstanding candidate. You need to get in behind her over there. So again, as Democrats, we are working together before we even go to DC. And I think what you see here is no egos, no, I got you. We're not saying we have all the answers, but what we are saying is we want to listen, we want to get your questions, and we want to make sure that we put pen to paper before we even go to DC. So when we get to DC on the first day, raise our hand, we can actually start working that same day. We won't be up there like some other people been up there for 70 days and they just decided to write one letter. But we're not going to go down that road. So with that, I'm trying to see, do we have any questions? I see you, Dalton. And yes, please put into the chat where you watching us from, because we may have some people watching us all the way on the other side of the earth. You never can tell, because right now we have almost 1,300 people watching us as we speak. So again, thank you for that.
Shawn, I was just going to add to
go ahead, Chris.
Those acts. The great thing about the bipartisan stuff is what we're seeing. I know that the House just passed the 21st Century Act, and I'm not going to get off topic, and Trump is holding it hostage right now. But the good thing is we're starting to see that both sides are coming together and aimed at a problem and trying to find a solution. And I think that's what these acts all represent. Is if you look at them, they're all saying, one, we got to make sure that these data centers are passing they're not passing the cost on to us. If they're going to build these things, then they're going to be responsible for that cost. And they're also making sure that there's transparency involved. All of these things they all have different things, but all of them are directed at those issues. And it's good to see that we're starting to work together on these things and come up with solutions to these problems that we're seeing.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, well, no, it's just that one of the issues are on these bills, they're sitting in committee.
Mm-hmm.
And because we are not working together up there to get them out of committee, they're going to sit there. So we all know what we have to do in order to get them out of committee.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, that action is everybody that's listening to us today or watching us, however you want to describe it, picking up the phone, reaching out to your representative and saying, hey, let's move the balls. Stop playing softball games in DC and pointing fingers at each other, and actually roll your sleeves up and actually go to work. That's what you're paying them for. So make them actually go to work, and then come November, vote them out. Let's get somebody up there that you can hold accountable. And the cool thing about what I'm talking about right now, and I'll get to this, I think we had a question here. Yep, I see it popping up. But as I'm talking about this, my other two colleagues, you look at that for me, please. But what I want to say is this. When I look at data centers, I try to look at it through the lens of myself and Carla and our family. Would I want a data center next door to my farm? The answer to that clearly is hell no. No ifs, ands, buts about it. And we've been blessed enough that I probably got enough influence to probably get that data center pushed somewhere else. But the less fortunate of us, that's where that data center will end up. It'll end up beside a school. It'll end up taking some farmer's place, or end up somewhere where the people don't actually have a voice. And that's what I want to make sure, that we are the voice to the voiceless, so that at the end of the day, data centers are going to be here. I mean, the reality of it is, and I know it's going to sound crazy, but if we didn't have data centers, we couldn't be on this thing that we're doing right now. Somewhere data centers pushing this out to right now almost 1,500 people watching us. But at the end of the day, we need to put guardrails around it from the federal level to ensure that states across the board have the guidance that they need. But on top of that, what I saw last night in Walton County was I was very pleased to see the citizens standing up for themselves. But I will be honest with you, I was very disappointed there at the end, after all every statements and things were said, and they all the leadership there said, "Is it anything else on the agenda that we need to discuss?" You would have thought they would have said, "No, thank you, close the meeting out." Somebody, and I don't think he meant it in a bad way, but it just didn't leave a good taste in my mouth. He just wanted to say, "Hey, I just want to say happy birthday to so-and-so, so-and-so." And I'm like, wait a minute. These people just stood up here for the last 30 minutes talking about how data centers are going to take all the water, going to destroy their lives. And the best you can come up with is happy birthday. Come on, guys. We better than that. So with that, I'll turn it back over. Look like Mara wants to say something there.
So you know what? This is a nonpartisan issue. You know, it doesn't matter what side of the aisle you are. But what's interesting is when they show up from the communities, when they show up at the commissioners and the council meetings, everybody's trying to have their voice heard. But when you get to the Georgia Dome, or when you get to Washington, it becomes an extremely partisan issue. And that's one of the things that, you know, we need to be able to cut through, is that, again, it should not be partisan when we get to DC. We should be looking at it from our constituents' eyes. And, you know, and so I'm just going to talk about Project Sail. We had the community come out. And it might answer one of the questions that I saw earlier.
Shelly, can you put that question back up, please?
I think it was at Marketplace Max for accountability. So when you can write your ordinances, and you sit, and so community comes out and says, you know, how far they really want them to be, or maybe how tall the decibels, or what would happen if it's too loud? What happens if the generators are causing issues for the environment or whatever? They should have them written in there. And then what we were seeing is, in some cases, when the council went back to the companies and was saying, these are the ordinances that people want, the companies were taking it out and saying, we don't want this in here in the ordinance. And then they came back and it was like, this is what we're going to vote on, and this is what you're going to like. And I thought how backwards that was. So that it was like the people's voice didn't matter. These companies were in charge. And to me, that was not right. So when Project Sale, the vote was taken, and people were walking away defeated, it was, and a lot of people were crying. That was a sad day when people felt their voices were not heard.
Chris, you got anything you want to say about that? I guess you're on mute, Chris.
There we go.
Okay.
I'm hearing the same thing. People are upset, people are frustrated, and they're scared. These things are going to affect the environment. It's going to affect people's health. It's going to affect their bottom line and affordability, and not having to say. I know that's one of the big things, like in Cobb, that happened is, they approved that rezoning without asking anybody in the community. And then when the community comes in there, upset, they're like, oh no, we got nothing planned. Well, you do. We know that you do, right? We know it's coming. And that's the frustrating part that everybody's saying is, this is going to affect us. I mean, how would you like it, Shawn, if I moved into your, became your neighbor, hooked up to your water, started using your cable, and let you pay for all of that, and every now and then I mess up one of your fields. Is that all right?
That wouldn't work out too well.
Right. And so I mean, that's what people are worried about. And they've got right to worry about that, especially the drinking water. We're already seeing that with other issues like the forever chemicals. So, everybody's frustrated. And I think there's some compromise to be made, but it can't just be, the corporations dictating everything.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Shawn.
Yeah, let me just say one thing, because I think it's important. I think it was already said, but I'll just say it again, is this issue that we're talking about here. When I'm out and about in the community, Democrats, independents, and Republicans actually bring this issue up to me equally. One of the things that kind of blew me away a couple of days ago, again, I was in the Paulden area, and I actually heard where Republicans were saying, hey, because Democrats put a question on the ballot last about data centers. We actually put that on the ballot, but it did not go on the Republican ballot. And the Republicans saying, why didn't I get that question? I think across the board, regardless of what T-shirts you think you wear, everybody's concerned about this across the board. And I think across the board, people in our districts are looking for somebody that's going to stand up, fight for them, and at the end of the day say, hey, we got to do something, because right now it's great to go out and protest. Yes, let's go protest. But it also got to be some people. That's why I like rolling my sleeves up. It actually got to be some people who's going to roll their sleeves up and put pen to paper and say, okay, this is the policy that we're trying to get pushed through. And then on top of that, develop relationships. We don't have to believe in all the same stuff on any given subject, but to develop relationships that says, I don't care less if you're Democrat, independent, or Republican, but we all agree that data centers need to get some control measures or guardrails. We can work together on something bipartisan and actually put some more things in place, because to be honest with you, I don't see the guys in DC right now with everything that's going on currently today. They got a bipartisan bill ready to be signed by the president that talks about housing, and he says, hell no, I'm not going to sign it, okay? Because he wants to deal with the SAVE Act. That's a whole different issue. But the only reason I bring that up is because when you have games like that being played, who's ever going to get to the time where they're talking about data centers and what's actually going on. So I think this data centers issue is going to be something that the next Congress is going to have to address, and that will actually be us.
And that's what I've been telling everybody, Shawn, when I'm talking to them, my conservative neighbors and colleagues, is like, you don't have to be a Democrat to vote for me. And voting for me doesn't make you a Democrat. But regardless, I'm going to fight for you just like I am for my own party, because at the end of the day, it's the difference between the haves and the have-nots, right? And that's what we're seeing, like Mara was talking about with the corporations dictating. It's the haves that are coming in and telling the have-nots what to do and how we're going to do things. And so, I agree. I think we need to get in there and have people who are going to fight for everybody and to make an actual difference to our lives.
No. Hey, Mara, I know we want to say something, but let me just do a touch right here. We just hit 30 minutes, which is awesome. We got roughly about 1,720 people watching us. That's awesome. But let me also tell you what's not awesome. Everybody's cheering for us, but nobody's put their phone up to that thing and gave us any money. And I know that sounds mean. I know that is not cool to say, but at the end of the day, in order for us to win these races that we're currently in, if you want us to be able to take this passion to Washington, D.C., we got to buy TV time. We got to buy signs and buttons and knock on doors and hell, we got to pay for gas to drive all over these districts. Mark, how many counties you got?
I have 15.
15 counties. I will tell everybody my district, one way from West Cobb all the way up north, is 157 miles one way. So I just ask you if you can give us $2, $5, $7, whatever you can. Thank you. I just thank you in advance. I don't want to seem like I'm begging, but it's a lot going to be going on between now and November. I just say it that way. Mara, back to you.
It was just about, when they come here and the farmland is cheap and the power lines are available, the water's available. We know these belong in heavy industrialized areas. And the only reason is they're not going there is because they would have to then create the infrastructure. And we are allowing them to bypass and pay for the infrastructure if they put them in those heavy industrialized areas. And so we're not saying data centers cannot be here. We're just saying not in our backyards. And if we look at my district, we had about 21 homes that were being affected by eminent domain. Mm-hmm. We also had, I think it was like over 300 parcels they were talking about that are going to be having these power lines. So that's, again, a type of easement, eminent domain on people's yards. There's a young lady in Coweta, and I'm telling you, she is a powerhouse. And I'm going to say her name is Brianna. And she's got, I think she said she has 20 acres of farmland, and she has cattle, and they're going to put these power lines smack down all her 20 acres. What in the heck? Mm-hmm. And you've now affected her life. You've affected her value of her home, the value of her land. And when we talk about eminent domain, when people now, we want your house, we want your whole thing, that we're going to kick you out. Where are they going? There's a lot of generational farms, there's generational homes. Some of these homes are paid. Their children are in, the schools. Where are they going? We already have a housing shortage here in my counties. So are they going to take up their whole families and now move someplace else? If they worked in the community, do they have to now live someplace else? I mean, what we've put on these people is, it's not right.
Yeah, 100%. I saw over here and I know people see me looking over off to the side because I'm trying to read some of the comments and all those kind of things. And I'm not a professional at this. I'm just a guy that raised cattle for a living. But I saw a question there. Somebody was asking, that our candidate to be governor, or not our candidate to be governor, Keisha, when she becomes our governor, I think the question was talking about she's going to ask for a pause or something. I support a pause. I support it. What I'm talking about is after we get the pause, what pen to paper we got to do that when we come out of the pause, we actually got things in place that if you get a 30-day pause, a 60-day pause, or 8 months, or a year pause, I want to have this discussion with people and learn from people so that when we put pen to paper and come out of that pause, we actually got something concrete that we can move forward with and say, this is our plan when it comes to data centers. And that's why we actually call it rules of engagement. And that's why we're having this conversation. We're going to continue to have this conversation. Shelly, is it any more questions out there? And I'll let somebody else touch on it, but I just want to let people know that it won't be long. It will not be long. Please keep that up on the screen. It won't be long, and we'll have more than 2,000 people watching us. That is awesome, awesome, awesome. If you can put in the chat, if you from, I saw somebody said they from my hometown, Early County. Shout out to the Bobcats. But if you're from anywhere in Georgia, but if you're actually from New York, if you're from California, if you're from wherever, and Adam, again, I want to thank you. Push that thing out all over X. And let people know we're out here doing it, and ask them to help supporters and so that we can actually win these elections down here. So with that, I think it was you, Chris.
Yeah, what I was going to touch on is another thing that's going to be important, and the reason why we need to get us three up in the House is Georgia Power just got a $22.4 billion loan from the Department of Energy to build a new power plant and transmission lines and upgrade. And it's going to be, Congress's job to oversee that. Now, the last time they did that was the Vogel, and they overran the budget by $20 billion. So the way we're seeing them spend money on a reflecting pool, who knows what's going to happen if they're overseeing a $22 billion project, right? So, and this is all, and yet again, this is another thing that's bothersome, is because this is our taxpayer money going in to pay for the infrastructure for this, this industry. So it's one of those, but at least we have oversight. But at the same time, where's these corporations pitching in on this, right?
Yeah, you're exactly right. I was talking to some friends the other day, and we were talking about data centers on the front end when they come to town. And how everybody talks about how it's going to create so many jobs. And yes, it will create jobs for you to build a building, okay? For you to build a building. I'm not even 100% sure when they build these buildings, will that be local people building it? Or is it kind of like the guys that build stuff all over the United States, so that when they build it in California and they come to Georgia and they build the same building so that they know exactly how to do it? That's kind of what I want to get my hands around. I want to dig into that a little bit more and say, okay, when you're talking about jobs, who's actually getting these jobs, and what kind of jobs are they on the front end? I know some places may take up to 6 to 7 years to build it, but then on the flip side of the coin, when you finish building it, and this is what I want everybody to help me on, when you finish building it, the jobs that you say is going to create on the back end, what systems do we have in place to ensure that the people in the rural community actually have the skill set to even compete to have the job? That is where I want to make sure, because we know data centers are not going away. They're not. But I want to make sure if they do come to our rural communities or anywhere in the state, but if they come to our rural communities, I want to make sure that we put systems in place that local people still can actually get a job there and get a livable wage. Because in my district, most people get up in the morning and they drive to Atlanta or they drive somewhere else to actually make their money. And I want to do everything I possibly can to ensure that they can just get up, drive 5 miles, go to work, and then have a livable wage and can go out and buy a house. So I just kind of want to put that out there. We got another question here.
Hey, Shawn, can I answer
Yes, go ahead.
a couple of things that you said? So here's the thing. Once you are right, at least I can talk to some of my areas. People from out of state are coming in to build these. They may hire some local, but again, these are all temporary jobs, number one. At the back end, you're looking at maybe 30 or so people. You've got some security guards that'll be there. You have some people that might be, plumbers, electricians. But a lot of them, they travel around to the other data centers that are here in the area. Let me see, what was it? Oh, I know what it was. So earlier when I had mentioned about when we talk about data centers, it could be 8 buildings, it could be 15 buildings. 50 to 70% of them do not get built. If they say they're going to build 10, they don't build 10. And, and we're looking at a 5, in some cases, 8 or 10-year build. So then what happens? You didn't build it. So now what happens to the rest of that land? And on top of that, because the industry is constantly changing. Remember, we had the big computers, and now we've got them. We can put them in the palm of our hands. For the data centers that they're building, they could be done in two years. So now what happens? We need to make sure that there's some kind of decommissioning plan for those data centers that will be paid for by those companies and corporations. Because what are you going to do with this huge piece of whatever in the end? And the last piece is, when I talk to some of the builders, when I travel around and they're saying we're going to pop up another one, and I ask the developers who is coming in, they cannot tell me. They say, well, we work with this company and we work with that company. And I'll always say, so right now there are no tenants. The bottom line is you will build it and they will come. That is the philosophy of that whole entire industry right now.
Excellent. Chris, I want to make sure that you get some time to talk, because Chris, you may be the smartest cat on the whole call. I'm in the leadership business. I just know how to get things done. But you are that guy behind the scenes that every day you're out there in the law. So, I want to make sure that we get you some time here, because we're sitting at 42 minutes. We roughly got 2,000 people watching. So again, thank you for that. But Chris, you have the floor.
Yeah, I was going to touch on this question about the NDAs. I think it's absurd that that's even a thing. I mean, it seems like if you take an oath as an elected official, that's just a clear violation of that oath. If you're signing these NDAs, I mean, you're supposed to be for the best interest of your community, of your constituents. And if you're signing NDAs, now you're putting that corporation's interest above your constituents. It should absolutely be banned. And looking at the 4 acts that are kind of in committees right now, it looks like a lot of them are addressing that, and I would absolutely support that, because there's, in some situations, we don't even know who the people are that are building it. We might know the builder, but we don't know who the person is, that the investor and the investment company. And I think those are things that are important. We may not know how much this stuff's going to cost. We don't know how it's going to. I mean, all the things that we need to know. If they sign those things, we're not going to be able to know it. So, I would absolutely agree with banning the NDAs.
Excellent. Mara, I'm trying to type and everything else. So please go ahead. Let me get this one text out to somebody real quick.
Well, I was going to ask, Chris, so there was a question that was asked me when I was on a data center panel, and the person said, what about our health because of the data centers? And, mental health, they've shown because of the sound and things like that can affect them. They were saying, just the water, the environment. And they said, what could we do? And so somebody said a class action lawsuit is what they would have to do. And all I could think about is, so in order for them to do that, they would have to have like a baseline of their health. And when they were saying that, it was, well, we have so many people that can no longer afford their health care, so they can't go necessarily to see the doctor. If they have well water, they need to be able to go afford to have a test done. But these companies, if you do a class action lawsuit, they will litigate you all day long.
Mm-hmm.
How long will that be?
That's right. And all of this stuff is connected too, right? So you're touching on, again, we just had millions of people lose their health care. So how are they going to get treated if these things do cause health issues, which we know that they're probably going to do? And we've already seen what's going on in up in Shawn's area where the forever chemicals, where Georgia's like, well, you can't sue the companies that are doing it, right? So they're changing how personal injury and things like that are affecting, and they're messing with tort reform so they can get away with these kind of things. That's more on the state level, but it's still something. So now you don't have health care to go and get treated, and you don't have any remedy or action, because now the state has said, no, it's not an action. You can't sue the company for giving you this condition, right? So there's a lot that's going on here that is that, you know, they're going to need us to get in there and fight to get these things changed so they can have some type of remedy. I mean, at the very least, let's get them some health care. If we're not going to let them sue to pay for it, right?
Yeah, and in Congress, that's what we would need. We would need to have some kind of committee, a health committee, whether it be in the Health and Human Services, to be able to start tracking these people. Because Shawn, think about what came to mind was our military folks. Remember, when we get deployed, you're healthy when you go. When you come back, you may have some issues, but you may not have issues for 5 or 10 years down the line.
Maybe 15.
And then our government will deny and say, well, your deployment did not cause that. Agent Orange did not cause that. Burn pits did not cause that. I'm afraid people that are getting could be affected by the data centers. How long will it be before our government or these corporations will say, yes, indeed, the data centers, whatever, caused your issue?
Yeah, I would tell you, you know, as I think about data centers, I was out on the farm today, and one of the things that hit me was trying to think or look through the lens of a farmer. And you know, I'm in the cattle business, but my family also do row crops like everybody else here in Georgia: peanuts, soybeans, cotton, you name it. And many farmers actually irrigate their crops. So you see where you're going down the road and there's a system that's spraying water out. My concern is if I don't have any guidelines out there or guide rails out there, then if we get into a drought that we was just in the other day, we went from having a drought to having too much rain. But if we get into a drought, who has the priority on the water? Is it the data centers or is it the farmers? And these are the basic things that I personally want to make sure that when I get to DC, inside of those guardrails, don't make any difference they're in Georgia, California, New York, wherever, it specifically says something addressing the farmers in rural America to ensure that we don't actually get so many data centers that we can't feed ourselves anymore because all the water's been sucked up. I don't know that for a fact or not, but just as Shawn, the everyday person, because if I don't have water on this farm, I can't raise cattle. And if somebody's in the row crop business, if you can't have water on your peanuts, soybeans, and all those things, then you can't produce a crop. So I think as leaders that are headed to DC, these are the type things that we need to put into something at a very strategic level, that when it comes down to the state, they can say, okay, this makes sense. And how do we put a little bit more meat on the bone? I see that we still got questions coming in. Please share them with us. Right now, we got more than 2,000 people watching us. I want to also encourage you again to donate to us if you can. And then on top of that, any question that we don't get to tonight, when we come back, probably in about 3-4 weeks, we'll get that put out there to everybody. But when we come back, we will then make sure that the questions that you had for us, we'll address them right off the top, so that if we missed it, because I want to make sure that we respect your time tonight. And I personally like getting in, getting out, so you can go back and spend some time with your family, and you're not just overburdened with all this political stuff. Sometimes you just need to just step away from it, breathe, and it's going to be okay. Shelly, can you put that question up one more time? I was talking, I didn't get a chance to actually look at it. Okay. Would y'all guys support legislation that holds data centers and leadership? This is a very good question. This is one of those type questions that I would tell you as a leader, I don't know enough right now to be able to say yes or no. And when I'm not trying to play Shawn the politician, because I want you to hold me accountable. But as a leader that spent 40 years in the military, I know before I can get to an answer on something, I need information. I need information. And part of that information is going to be from outstanding people that are on this line with us right now. But also, I will sit down with other lawyers out there and say, hey, tell me, what does the law say? Tell me, where should I stand on this particular thing? Because I don't want to do anything that will cause one of our areas to miss out if it's a good deal or a good thing. But at the end of the day, I want to make sure that whatever's coming to any one of our counties, that we understand it today, but we also understand it 50 years from now. And I think that's important to think about. Something that's good today may not also be good 50 years from now. So part of our job is to be able to look over the horizon there. Right now, we at 52 minutes. We got well over 2,000 people watching us, and all kind of questions coming in. As we now start saying, hey, it's time to kind of ease out of here, not saying we're going to jump off right now, but I want to, and somebody says, I appreciate it, Okay, thank you. Y'all guys know me. You ask me a question, I'm not going to dodge you. I'm going to answer the question. But I want to make sure as we closing out here that I give my colleagues outstanding colleagues. And when I say outstanding, these colleagues here touch my district. So that means the same people that's in my district that's struggling are right there in their district, because we probably got cousins and families that live across the line. Like Chris said he used to live in a trailer park right here in my district. And I know there's people on this thing that's following me from Blakely, Georgia, Early County, saying, wait a minute, Shawn Harris is up there up north, but he still cares about it down there. So with that, Mara, you have the show.
I just want to say, Shawn, thank you so very, very much for putting this together, because you've given us a platform to collectively put our voices out there. So the people out in Georgia, the people in our district know that we're behind them. You know, I like many of you, show up at all those meetings. And that's one of the things. These are not sexy, interesting meetings. You know, you work a hard day. And who says when they come home, I can't wait to go to that zoning meeting tonight. And oh, by the way, tomorrow, I can't wait to go to that city council and commissioner meeting, and then sit there for another 2 hours when you could be spending time with the family. But that is where the rubber meets the road in a lot of cases. And for a lot of people that are, you know, asking questions, this is where the community comes together. And this is where you kind of parcel it out and say, hey, there's 5 of us. For the next month, you go, and then the month after that, you go, and keep us informed as to what's happening. Excellent. That way, you know, we have our pulse of what's going on. So then we can figure out what we got to do up in DC. We see what's happening because we're showing up. And we're not one, and that's the thing about the three of us here. And I know Soretta is out there. We're not one and done people. When we, you know, I can't tell you how many times there is a meeting on the same day talking about another data center, and in only we can show up once, you know, and we got to see if we can get other people to show up, because we don't want them to say, you know, we're just there for a photo op, and we don't care. But we're doing our best to be in as many places as we can. So keep us, you know, keep writing to us.
There you go. Chris, what do you want to tell the people before we get off?
Thanks, Shawn. Well, thanks for having me, Bud. And Miss Keller, thank you for allowing me to join as well. I look forward to doing this in the future. You know, I wanted to touch on that. There was that question about criminal and civil liability. You know, I don't do criminal law because, you know, well, one, when it was a misdemeanor, anytime that there is the penalty is a fine, it only affects poor people. So when you give these corporations the opportunity to do a cost benefit analysis as to, will we just pay the pay the fine, pay the penalty, as opposed to just stopping the thing? And then the other side of that is we're going to need a different DOJ or in the office to actually hold them accountable, because right now they're going after political opponents and not, you know, keeping anybody accountable. And that's kind of why I've got into this thing. You know, I am a kid from a trailer park who made good. I'm a defense attorney. You know, I believe that, you know, the American dream, the opportunities that came is how I got here. And I'm worried that those dreams and those opportunities are not going to be there for future generations. You know, my kids are just now starting their public school education journey. And I'm worried, you know, they're cutting the Department of Education, and they're starting to cut back on, you know, just go away with public education altogether. And I wouldn't be here without public education. And so, you know, I'm fighting to keep that American dream alive for future generations. And, you know, I think, Shawn, you touched on it so many times. You know, we will go in there and we're all three going to fight. We're definitely going to need your help. You know, you have the money, you can afford it. I know we're sitting here saying, you know, times are tight, give us some money, but times are tight. And the reason is because you don't have people like us in the office yet. And we need to get there so we can fight for you. But there's other ways that you can help out. If you're local, you know, we all need volunteers to help with Canvas and, you know, phone bank, all kinds of stuff. You can go to my website, electharden.com, and sign up to see how you can help my campaign. I'm sure the others have their website that they can plug as well. But, you know, it's not just the slogan, it's really the truth. You know, we want you to join us, and let's do something different together.
Hey, you know, thanks, Chris. Thanks, Mara. Colin and I, we had 5 sons. 5 sons. Okay, we're blessed. But Chris, you my hero, man. The first time I met you and you talked about the trailer park. Okay, great. A lot of people grew up in the trailer park. But tell the audience one more time before we hop off. How many kids you got?
We have spontaneous triplets. We have 1 girl and 2 boys, and they're about to go into, they just finished pre-K, going to go into kindergarten. And right now they're in soccer, and it may not be the World Cup, but man, it was awesome to get to watch them Saturday. Now that we're in the campaign season, it's kind of tough to find a Saturday to go watch them, but I got to do it last week, and that was awesome.
Guess what? Somewhere during this crazy campaign, all of us going to come to your district, and we're not going to knock on doors. We just going to a soccer game and just do what real people do. And I think people say, you know what? I like those guys. Hey, guys, we've been on now for 58 minutes. I want to tell everybody thank you, thank you, thank you. I want to tell everybody thank you for everything that the question that you asked us. I want to say you thank you for taking the time out to listen to what we have to say. I also want to tell you thank you when it goes over to YouTube to share this thing everywhere and ask people to donate to our campaign day after day after day. I just want to tell you, as far as when I sit up here in Northwest Georgia, I think we got some great things happening. We got some great candidates, and we need to make sure that we support everybody all the way from the top, from joining our staff, all the way to whoever's running for dog collector in somebody's little small town. I don't care. I think we need to get all the right people in the right places. So as we close out, is right now I see where it's 2,160 people that are following us. And there you go. I got an incredible team behind the scenes there. That's how you can actually donate to our thing. Take a picture of that, share that everywhere. And then on top of that, share that with the people out there on YouTube. We just hit 1 minute. And guys, because I respect your time, we respect you and love you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Have a good one.